Welcome. It is October 8th, 2019 at 6:30, and I call this meeting to order. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mayor Moskowski sends her regrets for not attending. She had a family emergency to attend to. And so on to visitors to be heard. Seeing none, moving to new business. Bobby?
Did we adopt the agenda?
Oh, we have to do
Oh,
it.
yep, sorry.
Let's do
Looking
that
for a
one.
movement to, motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now we move on to visitors to be heard. Still not seeing any. Now we'll move on to snow plowing bids. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Acting mayor and city council. There we go. I was glad to
We're all struggling.
find the word there. Thank you. Last week on October 2nd, the city council met and we discussed 4 snow plow bids. Out of that meeting, we had some information that was requested by city council, and we did narrow it down the bids to 2 companies. We have Professional Asphalt out of along Lake Minnesota and Larson Landscape here in Maple Plain. Some of the information that was requested, I just want to review this, was asked for a referencing client list. And what I didn't know and what I learned a little bit today as well is that that information is really highly protected in this business because it is highly competitive. So I did send an email out with some of that information to the city council earlier today. Now, I can tell you that on the reference list, I did call and I have talked to a reference each from one of these businesses, and both of them were very positive. Both companies present some pros and cons. One thing that I really I found is that it looks like Larson Landscape is a little bit more expensive when it comes to a per inch basis that we found, but their estimated yearly costs is cheaper because it includes salt than, say, Professional Asphalt, where it is cheaper when they come out, their per inch time that was requested. And but it does not include sand salt in their annual figure. So both companies expressed that they had some challenges with it. Now, what I can say is that I did take the liberty to look up how much salt did we use from 2017 into 2018. And we used about 130 tons worth of salt. And at the time, that was going at $78 and some odd cents a ton. So that cost us about $10,000 for that year, that full year of 17 and into 18. Now, obviously by looking at these bids as well, the cost for salt is much more expensive now than it was a few years ago. And part of the reason for that, and all the contractors that I talked to through this process expressed the same thing. There's really 2 factors. One, there's been a lot of trouble this year for some reason getting salt from, I think it's Missouri is where a lot of the salt is coming from, up to Minnesota. I don't know why the challenge is there, but they all kind of touched on it. The second thing is that typically cities get a discount by receiving our salt from Hennepin County. When a government agency buys in this case salt or sand from another government agency, it is cheaper for the city to do it that way. Now, I could explore, no matter how we go, looking at doing that. The problem is that we do not have any place currently to store that. So if we decided, hey, we're going to buy our bulk salt for the year from Hennepin County, we just don't have a storage place to do that. In the future, if we want to look at providing a location to store that, we could. Looking through both of that, you've got one of the major pros of Larson Landscape is they're in Maple Plain. That's a huge pro. They also have some experience as in doing municipal work. They did a year for Spring Park, and Spring Park was so impressed with their work that they now have a 3-year contract with Spring Park. So that's a really good thing that Larson Landscape is going. One of the the cons for Larson Landscape is they don't have a big plow truck. So that was one thing I did clarify that council had brought up. And Professional Asphalt does. Now, both of them in their references had a pretty impressive reference list. Professional Asphalt does a lot of work for a major leasing company in the metro area, and does all of their parking lots and all of their commercial work. And they do it really well from what I've been told. So that's a pro for them, but like I said, you know, City Administrator of Spring Park, who I've talked to multiple times throughout this process, including some of the language with this contract, spoke very highly of Larson Landscape as well. It comes down to, I don't really think there's a wrong choice at this point. I think they're both very solid. They both come back and check out well. They both do good work. I've got a good working relationship with both of the owners of this company. I think that, I really don't think that there's a wrong way of going about it. I think the things that do stand out, one, Larson, they're local, like I said. Two, Professional Asphalt, they have larger equipment. Three, Professional Asphalt does offer that salt sand mix that I know that council has liked before in the past. Sand is not offered by Larson Landscape. I did clarify that with them. They have two types of salt that they put in their bid. One is DOT treated, that's the green salt, and then the white salt above 10 degrees. So with that, I don't have a strong recommendation either way. I like both companies. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them. But I'd be happy to answer any questions on that.
Questions, thoughts?
So there was no concern on Spring Park side with Larson not having a larger truck?
No, none that was shared. In fact, they, like I said, they gave them a 3-year contract extension, so they were really happy with them.
And then you were gonna check, so what, when they said they had a heavy duty, is that just like an F-350 or something?
It's a
or-
1-ton.
Okay.
It's a 550.
Oh, it's,
Yep.
okay, so
Yep.
it's a bigger.
So you weren't part of it,
It's larger.
it's what we were going to look at in replacing our 1-ton.
Correct. Yep.
Now, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, John.
I wish we had the numbers to share. So they gave us annualized bids, correct?
Correct. So for Professional Asphalt, that was $82,000 plus sand and salt, which they don't know at this time what that is. So both of them shared a bit of an unease because they don't know. They haven't driven the route before. They don't know how much it's going to blow. The snow is all over the place. There is a little bit of an unknown variable in this just because it's weather. And you may get an inch of slushy snow that you want to plow even though it doesn't hit the 2-inch mark because you don't want it to freeze into ice. Or there may be snow drifts blowing all over the place that need to be going cleaned up. So they were a little hesitant on that, but Larson did come in and they said our annual cost is $85,000 and that includes salt. So in comparison to the number that was provided last week, which was People Service at $91,130 for the year, Larson Landscape is $6,000 and some dollars cheaper than that.
Point of, the $91,000 that ended up in the first contract for People Service,
Correct.
that was snowplow and mowing.
Oh, sure.
So if you back out $20,000 in mowing,
Yep.
that would put People Service maybe somewhere closer to about $70,000.
Correct.
Just for point of reference
Yep.
for you.
And I don't know if that number included materials or not, such as sand and salt. I don't know if that.
I don't recall if it did or not, but I did look into
Sure,
that.
sure.
And Bobby, I think your analysis is probably spot on here. Larson has a local vendor.
Mhm.
I analyzed it that light snows, they're probably a little cheaper, but on heavier snows,
Sure.
they're gonna cost us a little more.
Yep.
Pick one. We're gonna have heavy snows, we're gonna have light snows. If we could predict that, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Correct.
You know, I
Yep.
do like the sand-salt mixture versus the sand, particularly when salt is expensive as it is.
Mhm.
Now, keep in mind, we'd have had that salt expense whether we had
Correct.
kept our public
Yep.
works or we had gone to a vendor. So
No
I
doubt.
think that's a wash regardless of what it was.
Correct.
Well, but what did you say we used on salt?
Well, like I said, there's two things that make salt cheaper, why it was cheaper in 2017-18 till now. One, we can buy it from a government entity. So buying it from Hennepin County, it's cheaper for cities to do that just directly. instead of buying it from a private contractor. Two, salt was a lot cheaper in 1718 because all of the salt comes from, I believe, like I said, Missouri is where salt is moved up to Minnesota. And for some reason, it's extremely expensive this year. They're having troubles getting it up to Minnesota. I don't know all the
John,
dynamics of that.
How many tons? Did you say?
130.
Okay.
Another-
130 tons.
Point of clarification is we established a snowplow policy within the past 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the points was to reduce the amount of chloride that's going into the streets because we were using
Correct.
tens of thousands of dollars of salt, and it only ends up in the watershed to begin with. We were melting snow instead of moving it. So we established a policy
Correct.
that said, correct me if I'm wrong, intersections,
Yep.
corners,
Yep.
and something else, which
The mains. Yep.
the
just
mains, which, and some mains like
Yep.
Bud and.
Independence
and-
here.
Okay,
and
and
stuff
so, we haven't gone into a snow event yet, really, have we,
Mm-mm.
with that
Well,
policy?
yes, we have.
We
That-
have.
That policy was approved in December of last year. So we did this year have.
In 19,
in
but you're
19.
looking at 17, 18 numbers.
Correct.
So
I
you're,
don't
you're,
know.
what
Yes,
I'm
that
saying
is
is
correct.
your 100 tons is before
Correct. It should be lower than that.
it, so.
It should
so-
be, I would imagine, an annual year, on average amounts of snow should be around 75 to 80 tons of salt.
Now,
Should be.
and the other thing, because these two companies are so even.
Yep,
They really are.
yep.
When I broke down all the numbers, $5 here, $5 there, $15 here, $15 there, they're very close. So what I've been trying to do is figure out which one to eliminate instead of which one to choose, and then
Sure.
the denominator will fall. But your recommendations came on a sand salt mix
Mhm.
and larger plow trucks.
Yep. I
Now-
think that's what differentiates the
Well,
companies.
and what I want to say is if you take those two things out,
Sure.
would you still recommend professional and why? And before you answer that, let me ask you this. A 20% salt and 80% sand, all it does is reduce the amount of chloride in the mix.
Correct.
So we have less melting power, being chloride is the component that melts
Yep.
the ice. That's number one. Number two, a larger plow truck is only beneficial if it has a wing blade, because what makes a larger plow truck, or what makes a plow truck go faster is wider plowing capacity
Mhm.
and faster speed. We're limited by how fast a plow truck can move down a street.
True.
And if they, and if they have to make, if they can do a particular street in 2 passes compared to a particular street in 3 passes, that's gonna differentiate who can move more snow in a given hour. But I'm quite sure that this larger plow truck that you talk about, this L8000,
Mhm.
is a plow truck because they're a commercial lot plower. They're just moving snow to the ends,
Mhm.
and then bobcats and blowers are coming in and they're hauling it out. That's why they have haul trucks and they have plow trucks.
Correct.
If this has a wing blade like we had,
Mhm.
then you've got the length of the plow truck plus a 4 to 5 foot wing.
Sure.
So,
I would-
assuming that the larger plow truck has no bearing on it, and the fact that we're only talking 20% salt capacity compared to 100% salt capacity, would you still recommend professional and why?
So, if Professional did not have the larger plow truck and they were just straight salt, I would recommend Larson,
Okay.
because they're local and I don't have much to separate the companies. I mean, that's why I said I don't think there's a wrong pick here. I would go Larson because they're local and they're right here.
Well, and I'm inclined to go with Larson, in addition to being local, is that they have the experience of doing a city.
Sure.
So related to that, with our policy, we now have a policy to replace mailboxes that have been taken out by
Yep.
snowplows.
Yep.
So if Professional Asphalt, who hasn't had the experience of plowing city streets, takes out a bunch of mailboxes, would we be on the hook to pay for those, or would they?
Yeah, I've kept it where, there is a,
And I'm not questioning their professional ability, just hypothetically.
hypothetically, it is still a liability that the company has insurance for to replace. Yeah, I haven't quite figured out how we're gonna go about that yet. I know in Public Works, we have a bunch of temporary ones that we'd put up in the meantime and figure out then how to replace it when that does happen. It's either, it'd be, our policy is it's a, $7,500 check, or if the homeowner buys the materials, we'll help put it together. I mean, that's how it works. But I don't know how that's gonna work. Like I said, they all have liability insurance, so it should all be covered through their insurance to replace all these mailboxes. I haven't crossed that bridge yet. All I know is that all the language in terms of the liabilities in the contract, so it's not something we have to figure out right away.
Okay.
Well, and my understanding is Professional Asphalt will give us some dedicated staff. Larson would provide us
I just don't know what.
to their
yeah.
pool of vehicles, and I understand they have 14, 15
Mhm.
trucks.
Correct.
If we get a light snow, I think it's gonna be more effective with Larson. I think we get a heavier snow. We wish we would've gone with Professional Asphalt. I do like the bigger truck that Professional Asphalt
Mhm.
has. On heavier snows, a pickup is going to be more difficult.
A
You can
550
handle
is not a, well, it is,
It's
a
still
pickup.
small. It's still a pickup.
it's a 1.5 ton.
It's a
It
big-
depends on,
it's a
it
big
depends on
truck.
the, it's an 8-liter V10. It depends on the size of the blade.
My reference point is our snow truck right now,
Right, oh,
which
Correct.
any pickup is not gonna be our snow truck
Correct.
that we have. I do like the sand and salt. I like the bigger truck. I think if we get light snows, we're gonna be happy with Larson. If we get
Mhm.
heavy snows, we're gonna have frustration. In all cases, Bobby, I'm assuming you're gonna be managing the pieces, and I don't wanna see stuff not following to our snow plowing rules.
Correct.
Which are plow to the curbs, do that. That's what we ran into last year that got us in trouble.
Yep. No, I
You weren't
agree.
your staff wasn't plowing to the curbs.
Yeah, it's like I said, our guidelines will be an exhibit of the
And
contract.
that wasn't
It
the
is a part of-
equipment, that was.
Did-
Correct.
work.
The operator.
did you confirm,
With Maine?
did you confirm that, did you confirm with both companies that we're
Mhm.
talking about tonight, that the terms of our contract trumped any potential terms and conditions that they put in a bid?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Mike, no disrespect, like Bobby said, I don't think we can go wrong
No,
in either one.
Just
I
give us
am, I
all
am,
of Information.
I am siding with Larson for only 3 reasons. This is a 1-year contract, okay, just like Spring Park did. If there's issues, we can go back out for bid next year and try again. But they excelled so well, is my understanding, that they were able to sign them back up for a 3-year contract. And that was important. That's number one. Number two, they do have municipal experience. And number 3, they're local. That doesn't mean that Professional is not local. Long Lake, to me, is local. But the street that they drive out on is a Maple Plains street. They're also a taxpayer in this town. And like I said, I'm not trying to find the best. I'm trying to reduce it to 1. I'm coming in from the top end and going down instead of the bottom and going up. So that's where mine is. And I think as long as Bobby manages this, the trigger points, not only the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
but the end,
Correct.
on every snowfall, whether it's just salt, whether it's plowing, it's salt and plowing. We don't allow the contractor to determine when it's time to stop.
No, I get that. Really what determines and drives a lot of it is the policy. The policy is set, and city council adopted the policy. Policy drives most of it, not everything. So obviously there is some discretion, and
There is some
there has to be.
There is some discretion, but if they plow on a Tuesday and it's gonna be 29 degrees out that afternoon, and they're back out with 1 tons cleaning up the corners and things of that nature, that is just unnecessary labor that
Agreed.
will show up a month later, 6 weeks later on the accounts payable.
Agreed.
And callbacks and things of that nature. Are we responsible for paying for callbacks, or are they responsible for reimbursing us for callbacks?
Well, you know, it's a deal where we pay them for the work that they do. Well, if they're out here doing work, we got to pay them. That's the right thing to do. Now, again, I would challenge them in saying is that, look, is it 2 inches of snow? Because that is our trigger point. Okay, it wasn't 2 inches of snow. Then why did you come out and plow? And then there has to be an explanation that.
I would expect them to make a phone call to you, or you to make a phone call to them to say, we have not hit the trigger point, but I've heard from Public
Stillwater,
Works, or
yeah.
I've heard from
Mhm.
Fire Department, or I've heard from PD.
Yep.
Can we get you out? I don't want them calling you and telling you they're coming out.
Sure.
That's what I'm trying to avoid.
No, no, no,
Because
I get
I
that.
think I'm willing to take the risk or the gamble based on these shop rates for these trucks, to not contract them for an annual fee, but an hourly fee.
Right, that's
Hey,
what I
John.
want, that's what I wanted to clarify, sorry.
Right,
go ahead.
and in essence, that's no different than under the last year's scenario where the staff was making decisions, or with Bobby making decisions of when to go out, when to have overtime, when to do the plows.
Mhm.
We have to have it when you want it, how you want it, and a relationship with the local vendor that you can call and have that
Correct.
discussion with them.
Correct.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, as am I.
Yep.
But I don't want them making
That determination.
that determination.
That's fair.
And just firing up the trucks and sending a crew out here and start to move snow.
No, I completely agree. Because then it's just a free-for-all.
It is.
Yeah, I
And we
do
have
too.
no control over it. And if we have to question it in an accounts payable and pull it out and question you about it,
It's too late at that.
it's too late at that point.
Agreed. Agreed. I completely am on
Okay.
board with you, John.
And if that's, then, yeah, then hourly contractual is sufficient.
Yeah, because what I'm seeing right now, if we, on the bids, on the annual bids, if you put the salt back in, if we used 130 tons from last year, Larson's about 11 grand more. But if we're at an hourly bid, it's pretty close, right? I mean,
You mean professional asphalt? Larson included salt.
oh, Larson included salt?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
I went
professional
backwards.
asphalt
Okay.
was another
My bad.
15 to 30.
Yeah, I went backwards.
Yep.
So, but looking at the annuals, and like what you said in the first meeting was that they're gonna bid high every time. So we're probably gonna
Every
be
time.
right down in that ballpark where you felt we were gonna
And
be.
John, we're back to the same theory though. They put their bid together in a way that favors light snows. Because they have the equipment that can handle light snows more effectively. Asphalt had put it for heavier snows.
Right.
You can't predict which way it's gonna be.
You don't
I'm
know.
comfortable suggesting that we move with Larson.
Mhm.
I am as well.
And if you're entertaining a motion, I
I
would
am.
make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor of going with Larson Landscapes for our snowplow bid? Aye.
One other thing.
Is it roll call? Okay.
Uh-oh.
No, no, no,
Okay.
no. No, I just want council permission to enter into an agreement with them.
That was assumed.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
You have the documents.
Do you need a roll call?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Any other council reports or other business tonight?
Just a clarification, Bobby, is that gonna start now? Your document had October 15th?
Yeah, I'm gonna bring them in as soon as possible and get a,
Okay, so the
Contract signed.
date isn't necessarily the 15th, it's
it could be,
tomorrow.
that's
Yeah.
the plan.
So
I know what you're
I'm
good
not saying
at.
that they have to
Snow
put
is
plows on a
Saturday.
truck, but it'd be nice to do some salting maybe this
Absolutely,
weekend.
All
absolutely.
right.
Thank you for
Alright.
that clarification.
Yep.
Any other business, council reports? Motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting
Aye.
is adjourned.
You got these people scheduled pretty tight, don't you?
Oh, I do, yeah, no, they keep
I've got,